The Washington State Department of Enterprise Services wants to take a moment to recognize the rich history of the project area for the future Deschutes Estuary. We are so excited to begin the process of design on this legacy project. This project, as we understand it, would be the largest estuary restoration of its kind in an urban area in the United States. I hope you are as excited as we are. Historically, fresh water from the Deschutes River would mix with salt water from Budd Inlet over expansive tidal flats. This area, rich with history, was the southern terminus of the Puget Sound. The Deschutes Estuary Restoration Project will reconnect the lower 2 miles of the Coast Salish Sea with its natural ecosystem. The Deschutes watershed is approximately 270 square miles. The lower 260 acres of the watershed were significantly disrupted in the 1950s when the state built a dam at the mouth of the Deschutes River. Since that time, there have been chronic violations of water quality standards, and sediment has accumulated up to 13 feet in some areas. There are more than a dozen known invasive species, including the New Zealand mud snail, that caused the water body to be closed to all public use more than a decade ago. The freshwater impoundment is clogged with dense aquatic vegetation because of high nutrient levels. When they die off, they move into West Bay and decompose, and this process depletes the marine waters of oxygen that is important for fish and other aquatic life. The Deschutes Estuary has a long-standing cultural and spiritual significance to local tribes, particularly the Squaxin Island tribe. The Squaxin Island tribe considers the people and the land of Deschutes Estuary as Deschutes. They have used this area for time immemorial, and the Deschutes Estuary is of continued importance. The tribe holds reserve fishing rights here, though they can no longer touch the water due to access restrictions. They have been involved in the planning efforts for this project since the late 1990s, and they are a key partner with us today. This area has also historically been used by Chinese Americans. Chinese immigration to Olympia began in the early 1900s. Chinatown was established along the waterfront of the estuary, and the community built a series of houseboats on the shoreline. This area was referred to as Little Hollywood. Ultimately, the settlement was removed as part of the long process to construct the dam and Capitol Lake. The project area also has a rich maritime history. The old Olympia Brewing Company operated in Tumwater Historic Park, and vessels would make their way up 2 miles up the waterway to the brewery and the base of Tumwater Falls. In 1922, the Port of Olympia was established, and it had its most successful years as part of the timber trade through the 1950s. The water body has always been used recreationally. Olympia Yacht Club was established in its current location in 1912, and the maritime presence has grown increasingly since that time, with additional marinas, an active sailing club, and other boat launches nearby. In modern times, Capitol Lake has been embraced by the community. It is the heart of downtown Olympia. There used to be swimming beaches, sailing lessons, and even dragon boat races. The trails are used daily for walking and running. Lake Fair is even a part of our history, and so are the annual marathons and other events. This space is used for community and congregating. Olympia is also our capital city, and the development of Capitol Campus has had a significant influence in the landscape over time. In 1893, the initial visioning began to design and construct the Capitol building. In 1911, Wilder and White submitted a plan that would perch the Capitol building on the hillside, orienting all future planning to the views of the water and the mountains. Master planning continues today, though the most significant and recent expansion was the development of Heritage Park in the late 1990s. The park was developed to bring people to the shoreline, and is also a place to convey more of the state's history. Heritage Park was designed as an extension of the Capitol campus. There are features across the park that intend to represent the history from across the state to transition the experience from campus upline to the shared water body. Interestingly, the development of Heritage Park is what finally triggered the state and local jurisdictions to reinitiate efforts to consider alternatives for long-term management of the water body. The tribe compelled the state to convene a planning process to look at management alternatives given the conditions of the water body, and that's what brought us here today. In 2022, the Department of Enterprise Services identified estuary restoration as the management approach that had the greatest range of benefits and was the most supported by stakeholders. And so we began together on this process to re-envision the landscape. And as we do that, we must think about all of the rich history of this place. the natural history, the tribal history, settlement community, maritime community, civic community, and even the Capitol campus. Our goal is to represent that history in this space and do it in a way that balances our shared interests. What we see when we look at all of this is that water is the unifying force. All of our history over time has brought us to this place, from harvesting from the water, recreating on the water, crossing the water to either side of Olympia. This water brings us together, and it is the heart of Olympia. It is the prominent view from the Capitol campus that serves all of Washington residents. Restoring the estuary has far-reaching impacts to our state, and it is our living legacy. We started conceptual design in late 2023 and will continue through mid-2024. Our goal is to transition into 30% and then complete 30% design by the end of 2024. In 2025, we'll work on 60% design, and if we continue to obtain funding, we could actually have design completed by the end of 2026. We would work to obtain all permits by the end of 2026 too. At the time that we're creating this video, we are at the very beginning of the design process. The Department of Enterprise Service has committed to meeting with stakeholders to inform each design iteration from conceptual, 30%, 60% through final design. Recently, we have solicited and considered input from over 65 stakeholders and key partners. We will consider this input relative to consistency with design goals, specific design criteria and regulation, cost, resilience and durability, and other important criteria. In the future, we will return to these stakeholders and extend our outreach even further. We will also report out on what we've heard and how we will respond to that input. Don't forget to stay informed about engagement opportunities by signing up for the project newsletter on our website. And thank you for your interest in this legacy project.